पंजाब टेलीविजन देख रहे ਸਾਰੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਨਮਸਕਾਰ ਐਂਡ ਗੁੱਡ ਈਵਨਿੰਗ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਿਹਰਬਾਨੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੋ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਿਹਰਬਾਨੀ ਔਰ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਨੇ ਰੀਸੈਂਟਲੀ 2 ਸਾਲ ਮਾਨਵਤੇ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਕੀਤੇ ਨੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀਆਂ ਦਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਪਾਂਸਰਸ ਦਾ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਸਦਕਾ ਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਸੋ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇਨਪੁਟ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੀਡਬੈਕ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਜੁੜ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਰੋਡ ਟੂਡੇ 360 ਜੀ ਹਾਂ ਐਕਸਕਲੂਸਿਵ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਟੈਲੀਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਰੋਡ ਟੂਡੇ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਗਰੁੱਪ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ट्रैफिक ट्रांजिट ट्रांसपोर्टेशन और इस तरह के जोड़े सारे मुद्दे ने वो असीं तुहाडे तक चर्चा करते हैं ताकि इंडस्ट्री में की हो रहा है किहड़ियां चेंजिज आ रही ने वो सारियां चीज़ां तुहाडे तक पहुँचाई जा सकन सो इस लड़ी में वक्रे गैस्ट साहिबान साडे नाल जुड़ते हैं चाहे वो लॉ एनफोर्समेंट तो होन चाहे वो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन इंडस्ट्री के एक्सपर्ट होन चाहे वो स्टूडेंट होन चाहे वो ट्रेनी होन या फिर बिजनेस परसन होन सो हर तरह का असीं एक ताना बाना इस प्रोग्राम के जोड़ते हैं और अज की लड़ी के साडे नाल एक बहुत ही खास मेहमान ट्रकिंग और ट्रांसपोर्टेशन इंडस्ट्री तो पिछले 3 दहाकिਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਪੜਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੋ ਇਸ ਮੌਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਿੱਘਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇਟਸ ਅ ਗ੍ਰੇਟ ਆਨਰ ਫॉर all of us at Rotary 360 to welcome one of the very well known faces of the trucking and transportation industry, Bruce Outridge. Bruce, welcome to Rotary 360.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have a professional entrepreneur, artist, author, columnist, guest speaker, you are all in one.
I'm all in one. I just enjoy doing a lot of stuff and giving value back, right?
Absolutely. So I know you have a very busy schedule. You are always in demand at different sessions, seminars, presentations. So we are extremely pleased and honored to have you in our studio. So, for our, most of our viewers, those who live in the Greater Toronto area, I'm pretty sure they must have seen you in different events, whether it is Road Today Show or Smart Trucker Seminar Series, or they must have read your columns in leading publications, including Road Today. You write. You have been writing in Road Today for the last 10 plus years, and your caricatures, they get published in all the leading trucking magazines. So tell us something about your history and involvement in the industry.
Well, I started back in the 80s, if we can go back that far, but I won't go right to but I started in the moving industry. So I started unloading trucks like a lot of people, and then I got my D license and my A license. I was an owner-operator in the moving industry before switching over to freight, and it's been 30 years, 25 years driving, and supervisor and now entrepreneur and columnist.
Wonderful. Yeah. I know, because since we know each other from the last 12 plus years, I know there is a Brampton connection to your life as well.
I grew up in Brampton up until high school days, so all my elementary and everything were in Brampton. If you can imagine Brampton before the buildings,
right?
That's kind of when I lived there.
So you know the history of Brampton when it was a small, town in Ontario.
Yes, it was a very nice town. I enjoyed growing up there.
Wonderful. We are very pleased that Brampton played a little bit of role in your growing up.
Yes.
And all your creative skills and your educational seeds were sown during that time. So like you mentioned, you have been in the industry for 30 plus years. You have driven, you have started your career in the moving industry, went on to freight. So how this transition happened from owner operator to an author columnist?
Well, when I was an owner-operator, I was in the moving industry, and the truck that I owned with another partner was not the kind of truck you would use to freight. It was a single-axle tractor back in those days,
right?
And so it was no good for freight. So I found that in the moving industry, it's a great industry, but there's a lot of up and downs. You can spend a lot of time not rolling, and so I decided to move to freight, where it was a little more steady. And from there, I just worked for very good companies, and I didn't feel the need to get back into the owner-operator game, but. Being in business, it doesn't matter whether it's a truck or a flower shop. You have to.
You have to keep on going and keep on trucking as well. So I know in the recent, if you look at your recent career path in the last 10 years, you have been more public in the way of as an artist, as an author, as a guest speaker. So do you enjoy this role?
I enjoy the role. That's one of the things. People always ask me how I got from the artist. From truck driver to artist. And really, I've been doing art since I was 10 years old. I've always been doing art. And I just decided to give that a try from the trucking part. And a lot of my art is on the trucking industry, so it does work in the end of the day, right?
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure our viewers will look at some of your illustrations on our screen over there, because you have, drawn a lot of actual, I would say, situations, showcasing what is lacking in the industry and how we can raise the professional bar in the industry.
Right.
So, what kind of challenges do you see over the years which are still, lacking in the industry?
Probably the biggest challenge that I see, and a lot of the good companies are already addressing this, is the waiting time, I think, is a big issue, right?
Okay.
So we need to make sure that drivers are getting paid for whatever time they are actually working.
Right.
And that's probably been one of the biggest issues. And I think if we solve that, it's going to attract a lot of people to the industry, which is another issue we're having with the recruiting shortage, right? So I think making the miles shorter, which is already happening as well, instead of having someone go away for 2 weeks now, making it so they can go away for 2 or 3 days at a time. It depends what the person's actually looking for.
Right.
But just making it more attractive to the general population.
Yeah, waiting time, definitely it takes away a lot of your family time away, which is wasted down the drain.
That's right.
So I'm glad that the carriers and the transportation industry is looking at reducing those waiting time, whether those waiting times are at the shipper end or the receiver end or at the border. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're out of the control of the driver, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a choice whether you can back into a dock before they tell you, or go to the border, you may need to be inspected, whatever it is. You don't have control of that time. It could take an hour, it could take 15 minutes, you don't know. So, but you still have to kind of work with the hours of service, and everybody's trying to meet a schedule, right?
Right. So one of the challenges is the waiting time. You also mentioned about attracting newcomers or new people to the industry.
Yeah.
Do you see industries opening up its door with a warm heart?
It is. I think a lot of the big carriers that have been in this have realized the change, and they are opening it up to. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to just open the doors. It's easy for us to say, yes, we welcome people from outside of the country, or we welcome women into the industry. But when they come in, is it really, can they fit into, So I know a lot of the larger companies are making things where, just even for the truck stops, so women have separate areas to go and have showers or what have you. The same thing's happening with the larger carriers, making sure that the areas that they send to the women are more safer, I guess, in their minds. More amenities in the trucks for women and other people. It's a culture change. When we started, someone on a truck was just like a bigger tractor to them. That's what they thought of. But people are coming now outside of the country, maybe not understanding the trucking industry as it was back in the 70s and 80s, and they don't see it with the same eyes as somebody who grew up here and has always been part of the industry.
That brings to very important element, a major change which is coming in the industry very soon. We talk about mandatory entry level training. I think that will improve the initial training provided to the drivers, because if they are trained well, they'll be received well as well by those carriers, right?
That's right.
So how do you see, because you have been also involved in those deliberations, in your discussions, since you are involved with the Truck Training Schools Association of Ontario and with the Fleet Safety Council as well. So how do those changes make a positive difference?
I think the changes are going to help us, because we've been trying over the years, several different associations, to get truck driving as a skilled labor, the way a plumber or the way electrician, those mechanic, those kind of things have always been known as skilled laborers. And if we can get the trucking industry to be looked at and viewed the same, where there's maybe an apprenticeship part and moving into, there's a standard of training, then it will help, I think, raise the bar as far as how we're viewed as an industry. Hopefully it will raise salaries, because now contracts can be raised to where, okay, these drivers are trained a certain way. There's a lot. When I started, the industry was going the other way, where you had a certain number of carriers that controlled everything, and then people were able to go buy a truck, and so deregulation took us a different way, and I think it's now coming full circle again.
Wonderful. So how do we bring the rest of the family members involved and appreciate what trucking and transportation is all about? Sometimes it is limited to just the men folk or the parents, the women who are driving or working in the industry. The kids and the youngsters, they don't realize what are the challenges and opportunities. Yeah.
Well, some of the best ways to do it is just to get your family involved. Road Today has their truck show coming up in May. That's just bring the family to events. I'm always saying, get your family involved. We all say that trucking is a lifestyle change, right? It's not where you go to work 8 to 5 and it has nothing to do with your family. You're gone overnight. You're gone over time. Your kids are going to bed while you're in Houston, Texas, let's say. So how do you get them involved? And I always say some of the best ways to do that is to just I used to phone home every night, and have your kids track where you're going on a map. It helps them with geography. It keeps them connected. Now, of course, they've got technology, Skype and all these things, but back in the day, we didn't have those, right? So just getting creative, getting your family involved, and especially for partners who may be at home, to realize the job that's being done on the road. Because some partners think that, well, they're just, especially in the older days, we were just playing around on the road and, you didn't want to come home because you didn't want to fix the garage or whatever it was, right? But really, most of the men and women that I know on the road are hardworking people and they're just doing a really good job. And so it's important for the other people who may not be understanding what's on the road to understand that they're just working hard. They're doing what they would do if they went to an office, and to support them is to understand how they work and what they do, right?
Absolutely. So ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਬਰੂਸ ਆਊਟਰੀਚ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੜੇ ਵੈਲ ਨੋਨ ਆਥਰ, ਕਾਲਮਨਿਸਟ, ਗੈਸਟ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਨੇ, ਕੈਰੀਕੇਚਰ ਆਰਟਿਸਟ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿਣਗੀਆਂ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਰੋਡ ਟੂਡੇ 360। ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਵਧੀਆ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ, ਰੋਚਕ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ, ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਵਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਸਟੇ ਟਿਊਨਡ ਐਂਡ ਡੈਫੀਨਿਟਲੀ ਲੁਕਿੰਗ ਫਾਰਵਰਡ ਟੂ ਗੈਟ ਕਨੈਕਟਡ ਆਫਟਰ ਦਿਸ ਸ਼ਾਰਟ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ।